Hi everyone, Bethlehem Town Board Member Tom Schnurr here with a quick update on our Wednesday, February 11th Town Board meeting. So we started off, as always, with the Pledge of Allegiance and announcements. We went into public comment period. 10 folks took advantage of their First Amendment rights to speak at the Town Board meeting tonight, and I appreciate everyone who does do that. Then we had a public hearing on the proposed historic preservation law, and 7 folks came out for that. So again, thank you for those comments. All folks spoke in favor of the law. A few had some suggestions for how it could be improved, but we're still favorable of the concepts. So we then went into minutes approval and 19 line items. All line items were approved unanimously, and we'll get into what they were in a moment. So first, we appointed Derek Mitchell as a member of the Planning Board with a term ending at the end of 2029. His predecessor in that role, Scott, stepped back after many years of service to the town. We thank him for his work. Now that the Planning Board has delivered the zoning update to the town, Scott's stepping back, and Derek's going to be taking over in that role. We're very excited to have him. Number 2, a request from the Administrator of Parks and Recreation to fill a vacancy for the Recreation Maintenance Person 1 position. So making sure we have folks that can help keep our parks running smoothly. We then had a presentation on the Bethlehem zoning law and subdivision regulations update. This is the zoning update that is going to cover all of town. So we had a presentation on where we are in that process, and then our next agenda item was accepting that handoff from the planning board. So nothing was approved tonight except that it's now in the town board's court. So what the town board did say tonight and was vocal about this is that we need more public engagement. We're going to be having community meetings. We're going to be getting out of town hall. We're going to be coming to your hamlet, to your neighborhood, to hear your voice and to hear your thoughts on this zoning update. The planning director has committed to making sure there's a lot of visual parts of this presentation so you can really see in the design standards, in the zoning update, what this could mean for your community. One thing that I will say is, as part of this zoning update, the town is not going to be building these things. This is going to be allowing private property owners to develop or not to develop their property according to the law that the zoning update will create. Next, we, in furtherance of that, adopted a seeker resolution. This is a state environmental quality review for the classification of action and intent to serve as lead agency for the adoption of the zoning law and subdivision regulations update. So next, number 6, we accepted a request from the Director of Recycling and Composting to approve rate changes at the town's transfer station. Fortunately, the town's transfer station has been operating at a loss for some mattress disposal and other large bulk drop-offs. Over the past year, the rates that it costs us to dispose of these items has gone up, so the rates are now going to cover that. It'll be $30 to recycle a mattress at the town compost facility, and bulk drop-off rates have increased commensurately with our costs. But again, it is not as high. It is the first time in 6 years, and it is not as high as neighboring municipalities, so we're trying to make sure that we keep affordability in mind for everyone using that transfer station. Number 7, we approved a request from the Director of Recycling and Composting for bulk compost rates and shoveling limits. So bulk composting rates went up slightly. These are for large users, garden companies, landscapers who are using a lot of compost in their work, and those rates went up marginally. And then the shoveling limits went from 4 cubic yards a week for Bethlehem residents to 1 cubic yard a week. So that would be, I believe they said I believe the director said 40 gallon bags of compost a week that you can still shovel for free as a town resident. If you're using more than that, we want to make sure that there's some for everybody, so there is going to need to be a small fee to help manage that use and to keep up with demand. It seems to make sense to me. We then approved a memorandum of understanding. We approved youth recreation contracts. So for those non-town programs that use town space in the parks, there's soccer camps, baseball camps, softball, that use our town parks. The town does collect a fee from some of those outside vendors to use the parks to make sure that we're able to keep up the facilities there. Then we also approved, in number 9, a memorandum of understanding with Albany County Parks and Recreation for free events that are going to be happening in Bethlehem Town Park. So thank you to Albany County for making those events possible. Staying in the parks realm, we approved the hiring of seasonal personnel. These are the folks, our lifeguards, our seasonal attendants, the folks that are helping keep the lawn mowed or the paths clear across the parks. You'll see we do this pretty much every 2 weeks. Number 11 was an approval of a towing contract for vehicle towing when the Bethlehem Police Department calls in outside private towers. Number 12 was a request by the Commissioner of Public Works to award the alum commercial sulfate of alumina contract to the Holland Company. These are chemicals used by our water treatment plants. Number 13, the town approved a request from the Open Space Coordinator to adopt a seeker negative declaration resolution for the purchase of 133 acres of land located at 114 North Street. This was the proposed North Street Acres property that ended up not going forward, that the town, with assistance from Albany County and the Mohawk Hudson Land Conservancy, as well as private philanthropy, is purchasing to include part of it in our Ravines Park, where there's a lot of great biking activity and cycling activity, and also some passive use space and open space as part of our Open Spaces program. Number 14 was a request from the Conservation Easement Review Board for the town to accept its recommendation to approve a perpetual conservation easement agreement on just under 8 acres in Glenmont, and setting a public hearing. Number 15 was setting a public hearing for that on March 11th at our town board meeting at 6 p.m. Our 16th item was a request for the Open Space Coordinator to adopt a resolution to accept liability for potential surplus proceeds for the conveyance of a parcel of property on Brookhaven Lane from Albany County. Albany County had some property they came into as a result of a tax lien that the town is getting for $1. But as part of that process, we need to accept that if the tax lien has any defects and there is surplus amount owed to the original property owner, the town will be responsible for that. Based on advice of council and from Albany County, we do not believe that there will be any surplus liability or surplus proceeds, so we have moved forward to accept that. Number 17, we authorized the supervisor to execute an awarded contract with the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets Urban Farms and Community Gardens Grant. This is subject to review by the town attorney, but this is a grant with the state to allow us to bring water infrastructure to some of the open spaces and agricultural fields that were purchased as part of the Heath Farm project. Number 18, the board heard a presentation on the RFA for the 2026 farmland opportunities. Again, some of those very same parcels that have been in active agriculture for decades now, that the town purchased as part of the Heath Farm initiative, are going to be leased out to farmers, some on a 1-year contract up to a 5-year contract, depending on the parcel, so that these areas can stay in active use for agriculture while the town completes the visioning process. And then number 19, the town passed Local Law 1 of 2026, the Safe Parks Law, which allows the town to take action if someone harasses town staff, creates unreasonably disruptive or unsafe conditions in town parks. So we've had, unfortunately, assaults and harassment of town staff, ranging from lifeguards working at the town pool right up to the director of Parks and Recreation, where folks that are working for the town, folks that are keeping our parks open and running smoothly, should not be victims of criminal activity. They shouldn't be subject to that behavior. So if someone does want to ruin the day at the park for everyone or to engage in criminal activity, the town is going to have the ability now to ban them from the parks for up to a year or 5 years if this situation rises to that level of severity. There is due process protection in this, and I'm proud to have written this law in cooperation with the town attorney, with the director of Parks and Recreation. Thank them for their work. This is about keeping the parks safe for everyone. It's not about shutting people out of the parks. It's about making sure the parks remain a welcoming environment for all. So the town board passed that unanimously. Very proud to add that to the local laws here in Bethlehem and to keep our parks safe for everyone. So thank you very much. Please leave your questions or comments down below. Excited to hear them. And thank you again for sticking with us on what has not been a brief update at all. Thanks again. Be well.